right, so we're gonna get started here. First, I want to thank everyone for coming on this evening for this great session from the GLC about leadership coaching. I am Jasmine Bedrick. I am the Associate Director of Alumni Relations for Diversity, Inclusion, and Young Alumni Programs. I've been working with Andy to get this information out to young alums and alums that are a year to 15 years out about the leadership coaching resource that Gettysburg has. This is a free resource that Andy and the rest of his coaches and some participants have been waiting to share with you. So I won't talk the whole time, so I'll hand it on over to Andy. And please, if you can, keep yourself muted so we're able to hear our great panelists. And any questions you have, you can put them in the chat.
Thanks so much, and good evening to all of the Gettysburg community. It's so wonderful that you've chosen to spend these few moments with us tonight. My name's Andy Hughes. I serve as the Executive Director for the Garthwaite Leadership Center, which may be new for some of you. Maybe you haven't heard or engaged with our leadership development program yet, but something encourage you to join on tonight. And I want to talk a little bit about that to give you a sense of some of the phenomenal opportunities that you have from Gettysburg, from the GLC, to advance you in your leadership development journey. Tonight, what we're going to do is have a conversation. And the conversation is focused on what is the opportunity to get matched with a leadership coach at Gettysburg. We'll talk a little bit about what that means, and you'll hear directly from two of our former clients who have been through the program. And then I'll also introduce two of our current coaches to talk a little bit about what this experience is. So you're in for a real treat tonight. But before we get into that, there must be a reason that you said, you know what, I saw that email, I saw that LinkedIn post, I want to join. And so I'd love for you in the chat to just type a few words of what is it that made you join the call tonight? Why is it that you're interested in learning about leadership coaching? So please go ahead and take a few moments and pop that in the chat so we have a good sense of your why. Great. Fantastic. So as folks are sharing that, let me give you a sort of high-level overview of the coaching program that we have at Gettysburg. So as we know, the young alumni population here at Gettysburg, anyone who's graduated within the last 10 to 15 years, this is a time in life where you are faced with a number of leadership challenges. And what we have noticed in the research about leadership development opportunities across corporations and industries is that first-time managers, aspiring leaders, really see the most amount of leadership challenges, but receive the least amount of support. So back at the founding of the GLC about 13 years ago, we said, well, how can we as an institution help not just our students, but also our young alumni to navigate those leadership development challenges? And so we've experimented with a number of programs and landed on what we think is a phenomenal opportunity based on what we call leadership coaching. So leadership is a set of skills that anyone can learn and develop. And we think one of the best ways to develop those is by working one-on-one with a coach who empowers you to recognize your potential and your opportunity and grow towards that. So what we have is we've trained and developed a community of 12 coaches, and these are coaches from all over the country who are dedicated to Gettysburg, and either alums or parents who we have trained to be coaches, and they volunteer their time to serve you. And this program that we offer is open enrollment, so anyone at any point can contact the GLC to decide to work with a coach. We initiate an intake process that helps make sure to understand what the program is and what the commitments are. And then we match you with a coach really based on two things: your interest in skill development and the coach's availability. And then it's really up to you and the coach to work together over anywhere between a 3 to 6 month process to focus on identifying your goal and helping you achieve that. It's a very personalized, customized experience designed to help you. So that hopefully gives you an overview of the program. At the end, I'll talk about how to get involved and initiate that intake process. But I'd love for you to hear from two people in particular who have experienced working with a coach to share their story. So I'd like to, at this point, invite Megan Dunn from class of 2008 to introduce herself and share her story. And then after that, I'll ask Patrick Hill from class of 2014 to share your story. So Megan, over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy. My name is Megan Dunn. As Andy mentioned, I'm a 2008 graduate of Gettysburg. I work at a digital marketing agency and I'm the VP of services there. It's a company that I've helped build from the very early stages. We're about 6 years old, and I've been part of the company since the beginning. My background is in marketing and advertising, and then actually in college athletics. I was a women's lacrosse coach for a number of years before transitioning into the marketing field, and was a women's lacrosse player at Gettysburg. And so this year I had the opportunity to actually move into the role I'm in now, which is an executive leadership role at our company. And that requires me to oversee all of our service teams and directly manage our department directors. So when I heard from Andy in February about this opportunity with the pilot program for the alumni, it was very serendipitous. I was very excited to get to have this opportunity through Gettysburg, and what a cool thing for the college to be doing to continue to support their alums in terms of growing their leadership skills. So yeah, it was a no-brainer for me to want to apply. I think one of the things that really stood out to me in that process was just how well Andy and the team really thought through what that application process should look like in terms of understanding what you want to get out of it and really doing that discovery to, set your goals and what it is that you want to get out of a leadership training program. So for me, I really wanted to explore how to manage and inspire other managers. My team now, as part of our company's leadership, they all manage their own teams. They're all really major contributors to our company, and they're all experts in their respective fields. So I felt pretty confident in my ability to guide and mentor individual contributors. It's something that I had been doing for a number of years, but I was definitely intimidated, although excited about how I might approach leading other leaders and getting their buy-in. So that was really, for me, what I wanted to get out of it. I think I've gotten a tremendous experience in getting to work with Ellen Dotz, who's also on the call. And when I talk about it, I use this phrase, guided self-discovery, because I really do feel like that's the framework for the training and the coaching. We started every session with a question, and it was often, what are you celebrating today? And I think that in doing that, it really gives you an opportunity to ground yourself in what you've accomplished, which for leaders, and especially for women leaders, is really empowering and super important. And, if there were things that I was struggling with or different challenges that I was facing, I felt like we were often going through this process of like peeling back the layers on the issues and helping me see kind of that most of the time my instincts were there. I just needed some help uncovering them and really working through that. So I think it's that perspective and that really amazing ability to sort of like help someone arrive at a direction or a solution on their own. And I think that's what's really valuable about this, and something that I really hadn't really ever experienced before. So that's my time with the program. I hope I stayed within my time limit, but I'm excited to hear your questions and hopefully help answer anything that might pique your interest in participating.
For sharing your story. Pat, we'd love to hear a little bit about your experience.
Sure. Well, good evening, everyone. And it's great to see a lot of familiar faces here. And Dave, you even showed up too. So it's great to see my coach here to keep me honest. But just to share a little bit about my story. So I graduated in 2014, and during my time at Gettysburg, I did not participate in GLC programs, but Annie and I had a relationship through my involvement with Student Senate. And when I graduated and went into corporate America, so I'm a employee benefits consultant. I work with medium to large size employers to help manage their spend, recruit and track talent, and manage those costs. I really learned, and it was a wake-up call, that the majority of the people I were working with, 20, 30, 40 years older than me, and coming from an environment where you're really with your peers, and there's leadership that you do learn on campus working with amongst your peers. It was very difficult to really build that rapport, I found, for myself with those who were really in the thick of their career, years older, had experience. And I participated with the Young Alumni Leadership Program fairly early on in my graduation, since graduating, I think it was 2016, and stayed involved at Gettysburg through the Bold Council. But when this program came to be and Annie reached out and said, would I be interested? It was a no-brainer. And Neil and I were talking earlier before we all joined formally that for anyone who's in a job today, whether it's a big company or a small company, the training or the lack of training really that companies put in as a resource is far and few between. It's not really where it used to be for those who are slightly older than myself or Megan, who might have graduated earlier in time. But for those of us who have graduated, certainly within the last 10 years, finding the opportunity to have really good training with an employer, it's not really there. And the other thing, and I learned this when speaking with Dave, my coach, a lot of employers make the mistake of branding leadership training as sales training and vice versa. So we really were spending time on figuring out, and in my role, there's a sales component. How do you no longer associate yourself as a salesperson, but become a leader and help add value to people and help guide them to where they want to be? Because that's what leadership is. It's having someone's back and helping them get to a possible outcome and being their biggest supporter. And I think there's really a lack of leadership in general. There's never been a bigger time where more people have leadership titles, right? You see VPs everywhere. You see people with manager titles. But at the end of the day, a title is one thing. The attributes is really what matters. And I think having a program like this for anyone who's graduated, whether it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, to work with a seasoned veteran, someone who's been there before, who's walked in your shoes on campus and in a professional setting, this is where you want to be. Not many other institutions, especially of our size, are able to have the resources that we have. So to get this type of training and be able to work specifically through problems that you might not feel comfortable having that conversation with your boss, or you might not feel comfortable having that conversation with a peer, and they might not have the resources themselves, to be able to work through it with someone that you know from your alumni network, that is trusted, that has been vetted, that has been there before. The value it's tremendous. You can't really put a price on it. So I just know personally and professionally, my conversations with Dave, being able to be a more effective communicator, being able to set better expectations for myself and for others. And for a lot of us, we might not have leadership roles today, but if we work for an organization, small or large, they're always looking for future leaders. So being able to demonstrate how you can lead when you're not in charge is paramount. So that was my experience in a nutshell with Dave. It was a phenomenal experience, and I think, Dave, we still have one more one-on-one we need to schedule. But I would encourage everyone to participate in a program like this.
Patrick, the check's in the mail for my friend.
Thanks so much, Pat and Megan, for sharing your stories. Oftentimes when I hear from young alums first learning about this coaching program, one of the questions I get is, who are these coaches? Who are they? Who would I work with? And so I've invited a couple of them just to introduce themselves before we open it up to questions and share a little bit about why they do what they do. So Ellen, would you mind introducing yourself and sharing a little bit about yourself?
Of course. So Ellen Dotz, I'm a graduate, Gettysburg graduate 1983. And I had sort of lost touch with all things Gettysburg. And so when Andy appeared in my inbox, I first said, who's Andy Hughes and what's the GLC? But that really sounds right up my alley. And of course, then the rest is history. So as a bit of background, I have coached leaders and for the last, for sure, 10 years, executives, even before coaching was a function in terms of, a profession, and have been fortunate enough to coach leaders around the world. So that is really my sweet spot. I am getting to this stage in my career. So as I was riding off into the sunset and wrapping up my business, I was looking for ways not only to give back, but also to hopefully share some of my expertise. And so this seemed like a fabulous opportunity, and it has been. Anything else you want me to say yet?
That's perfect. Thanks,
Okay.
Ellen. And Neil, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself? Because both Ellen and Neil have really helped architect this program and help train our coaches. So would love to hear from you as well, Neil.
I'd love to. I am indeed Neil Bryant from the great class of 1982. And I got to give a shout out to Brooke. Hi, Brooke. It cracked me open. I bleed orange and blue. My wife and I are about as Gettysburg can be. And we feel privileged that the campus lets us on doing the things that we get to do. Professionally, I'm a vice president of leadership development for a global medical imaging company. And I'm also, as Ellen is, a certified executive coach. And so this is what I do for a living. And I also teach coaching to other coaches. Why I do it, well, you just heard from Megan and Patrick. That's why. The reality is, in the workplace, the opportunities to young professionals to build leadership skills are really pretty limited. And what I observe is that most of it is in a kind of a classroom setting, like they try to teach competency in mass, where we know from the neuroscience, that's not where performance transformation takes place. It really takes place at a personal level. It's not programmatic, it's individualized. And so when Andy and I were cooking up the idea, we wanted to hit that need in the marketplace, which is let's build substantive, meaningful connections between experienced coaches and young leaders who want to grow their skills. And let's find a way to make that happen. And because Andy is who Andy is, he found a way to do it. So I feel privileged to be part of it. I'm eager to work with any young person who says, hey, I'm ready to build my next version 2.0 of myself. That's what gets me fired up.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks, Ellen. Well, we'd love to hear from you all as you think about some of the information you shared in the chat about some of the challenges you're experiencing or some of the goals that you'd like to work on. How could we be helpful in sharing information about this program? What would you like to know?
This would be the interactive part of the program.
I have a question.
Yes, Lynn.
I'm class of 2004, and I don't think I'm kind of aged out of the program. Are you still? Is there like a future program coming for older alumni who still have leadership questions?
Lynn, you're really tugging at one of my strengths from the Clifton Strengths Finder, which is includer. And so I appreciate you naming your age outside the bracket. I mean, I think what I will say is I'd encourage you to apply. I mean, we talk about this as a young alumni program in the respect that we mostly want to serve those individuals who are really experiencing that first time management role. However, I think I'd be more than willing to have a conversation with you to see what your goals are, really where you want to go and see if this program is a good fit for you. So I'd encourage you to apply and see if this is something that could be of use for you. If not, be happy to talk about some other options that we could provide too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Andy, apologies because I dialed in a little late, so I might have missed this if it was already covered, but super curious on just what kind of the time commitment looks like to be involved for the program like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I'll turn it over to Pat and Megan to share from your experience, kind of what did we tell you it was and what was it actually?
I think, Andy, when we spoke over the summer, your expectations were it's what you make of it. And Neil alluded to it with the classroom setting. A lot of leadership program is one side to the other, right? You're sitting down, someone's teaching you. This program was you're reaching out, you're driving the boat forward. My cadence with Dave when we started, it was I think once every three weeks, then once every 4 weeks with interaction and homework assignments in between to keep things engaged. It's what you make of it.
Yeah, I would echo that. Exactly. It's, beyond just, the actual time commitment, I think like it's something that you get excited about. So you want to do it, and you want to prioritize the parts of it that are just helping you become a better leader.
To follow up on Andrew's question there, how often do you meet with your coach, and kind of how long are those meetings usually? What's the cadence?
Ours were similar to Pat's experience. I think in the beginning, it was a little bit more frequent just to sort of understand like, what are you working with? What's coming up for you? What are some challenges? And kind of get to know one another a little bit. And then usually I think it was every 4 to 6 weeks. It also was built a little bit around what I had going on in my job. I had a pretty major presentation I was giving in March. And so we spent a lot of time leading up to that more frequently. But then, after that kind of was, I think, a little bit longer in terms of the time that we were meeting. And it also the time frame seemed to get longer because didn't feel that the meetings needed to be as frequent because of being able to really implement some of the things that we talked about. And usually we met for about an hour, I think.
Yeah,
Andy,
I would say if an hour to an hour and a half a month is too much of a commitment, it candidly wouldn't be the right program. But I think everyone, by being on here, you understand the investment that this makes to yourself. So I would say, 90 minutes a month gets you there. But of course, there's a lot of learning that happens outside of your interaction with your coach. Dave and I would speak for an hour, and then I'd go out and do a sales call and think about everything he was saying, or go out to lunch and stand up and hand a tip to the waiter and tell them they did a great job because that was a Dave homework assignment. I don't really value things in terms of time as much as I value in terms of the effort and the intensity of putting in the time, right? But it's very much subjective. It's what you make of it and how much you're willing to make the investment into yourself.
And just to add that, if I can, and apologies, I'm like, oh my gosh, the sun has set. I'm in this weird like dark hole, but my light switch is all the way over there. So anyway, I think I would also say it's more about the bandwidth that you have mentally to be able to reflect, change perspectives, try new behaviors. And so for some time in your life, you may not have that. You may want to, but you just aren't able to at the moment. So from my perspective, I'd cause you to think about it that way, of how much do you have going on in here? And you have the time to be able to really stretch and grow in that way, because it can be tiring, because it's thinking new ways and practicing new behaviors.
I think I want to add one comment to it. It wasn't directly related to Andrew's question, but I think it comes into play as you listen to Patrick and to Ellen and others talk about, and Megan, her experience is there can be an artificial expectation when you enter into a relationship like this. We coaches are in service of you. It's not the other way around. So when you're thinking in terms of what are the expectations, we will help you craft what your expectations are from the experience. So as Patrick said, you're driving the bus. So what I would usually do is, yep, you've got scheduled calls every 3 weeks, but the end of every conversation would be, okay, this sounds like something you might want to work on between now and our next call. Are you able to do that? And if the answer is no, we say, okay, then let's wait till the next call. So I don't want you to come into it thinking that there's this hierarchy of authority that we're going to be judging, and because that's not the case. Our job is to drive a process to get you where you want to be. You'll dictate the pace.
Yeah, I'd like to pile on to what Neil just said. It's situational with each client. Patrick's situation is far different than the first client I had. In the beginning, I was meeting with her 2, sometimes 3 times a week because she had immediate needs and immediate situations and an immediate project and immediate gnashing of teeth with people and trying to help her through that. Once we got through that phase, it became more normalized, but it was intense in the beginning. Now I'm retired, so I've got time on my hands. I can't say that for everybody, but it was convenient for me to be able to be of service.
See hand raised, Jacqueline. I want to make sure we get to your question. How can we help?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Jacqueline Cross, class of 2010. Great to see you all. Sorry, I'm not showing you me. I am zoomed out today, but wanted to make sure I joined this call. But my main question is just, what does the matching process look like? So I'll just say this. I'm in a point where I'm ready to switch careers. I've worked in events for a few years now, and if anyone knows anything about events, like the last 3 years have been a dumpster fire. So like, I need to get out. So I'm curious, what is the matching process like? I know this isn't career development specific, but I'm curious about the matching process and what sorts of questions are asked, what the application process is like. So if you could dig a little bit into that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I can take that one, Jacqueline. So, you know, I'm confident in the 12 coaches that we have are really prepared to coach anyone, depending on, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. So it's not really industry specific there. But what we do is we ask if there are special preferences that you have when we think about this. So for example, I'll ask you a question in terms of, you know, do you have any preferences around social identities that are important to you? And we'll do our best at that point to make a match based on that preference. I'll also ask about, when do you want to get started? Because if this is something that, you know, you want to get started right away, I want to make sure we have a certain number of coaches ready to work with you right away. So that's another factor about the availability. But generally, we focus on really meeting your needs around that. We do ask you some questions to identify which particular area of leadership is salient and important to you right now. If you could think of an area that you would want to focus on. And then we use that to identify some of the coaches as well, based on their expertise. But really, I'm confident that our coaches can serve any one of our young alumni in that capacity. Great. Great. Well, I know that we are at 6 o'clock, and I want to make sure to honor your time here. So if you are interested in pursuing working with a leadership coach through the GLC. It's a pretty simple step. So in the chat right now, I'm going to put a link to our application form. And what this form does is really indicate to us that you're interested, and shares a little information about what some of your goals are. A big theme of coaching, and part of the ultimate goal of coaching is reflection. And this intake process is designed to start that process as well, to get you thinking about what are your goals, what are your hopes and dreams. Know that those can change, and most likely will change when working with your coach, because the coach is going to help you go a little bit deeper. But this gives us a sense of where you want to start. From that point, we'll schedule a brief 30-minute intake meeting with the GLC staff. And I have one of my team members on, Clayton. Do you mind just waving to the team? So we have a group of GLC staff members who facilitate the intake process to make sure you have a good understanding of what's expected and what comes next. And then from that point, we will begin the matching process, which usually takes anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. So that's a little bit about the process. I encourage you to reach out to me at the GLC directly if you have specific questions. Would love to jump on a call with you. But I want to say congrats for really making a decision and a commitment to yourself to pursuing this. Leaders need help. Leaders need support. We have a community of coaches ready to serve you and meet your needs. So thanks so much for joining us tonight, and we hope to hear from you soon.